introduction, except we're short on time. So my friend, thank you for fitting this all in. And ladies and gentlemen, Alan Nevin. There you bet.
On the city council, 7 of the 9 council persons, their position is the pinnacle of their career. It's the most they've ever earned, and they hold on to those positions for dear life. Only Scott and Barbara Bree have actually been in the world of business. So what Scott speaks is gospel, and he's the go-to guy. Okay, so let's see what comes up. Oh, that's the name of my book. And it's a story of the next 25 years in America. And it relates to both demographics and economics. And it's not a textbook, it's readable. But let me talk now. I want to give you my forecast. Yeah?
I see it.
There we go.
Oh, okay, here we go. The gross domestic product will grow by 3.5% to 4% this year, which is good. In past recoveries, we typically had like a 5% increase. This one is less because when they put together the gross domestic product, it's a combination of productivity and inflation. And because inflation has been so low, it means we're only at 3.5 core. Past ones have had a lot of inflation involved. So we're still doing okay. That's very good. Interest rates gone up a little bit. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens with the new chair of the Federal Reserve, who doesn't understand economics, but that's a different story. The key here, at least for the real estate industry, the 10-year T-bill is what sets the rate on 30-year mortgages. And it's going up slightly. It had been amazingly stable, so we could have 4% mortgages. Now we're up to like maybe 4.25. Still not bad, but interest rates should not go too high. Gas prices, they're up about $60 now. I think it'll probably be coming down to the $50 barrel range. That means, well, it means a lot better than $150 a barrel, which we had about 10 or 12 years ago. So we can live with that. We will add 2.5 million people to our population, and that's what drives our economy, because we're a consumer economy. The important thing is, virtually half of the entire population gain of this nation is going to be in California, Florida, and Texas. So if you're running a business that looking out to the future, you really want to go where the action is. And virtually all the action is in the Gold States. And obviously with California, Texas, and Florida leading the way, but the other 35 states, basically Albania, nothing's happening, nor is it going to. In the 1980 to 2010 census period, 3/4 of all the growth was in those 15 states. And when they do the 2020 census, the same thing will show again. Now, job gains, we're going to gain another 2 million jobs in this country, which is absolutely phenomenal. We just keep adding jobs, and we've been been on that uphill course since 2010. We're doing very, very well. Unemployment rate will stay at 4%. In San Diego, it's actually lower because it's a civilian unemployment rate that's produced. If you put in the 115,000 military here, it drops the unemployment rate down to the 3.5% range. And as usual, 38 to 40% of the jobs will be in those big 3 states, one of us included. every month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out a statistic on job openings, ads for new jobs. And it's double now what it was in 2010. Unemployment insurance claims remain at about 250,000 a week. That's been very stable now for the last 4 or 5 years, which is really terrific. The chain CPI inflation, I use this word chain because it's something new that the Bureau of Labor Statistics has just come up with, and they're doing it quarterly, and they say it's a more accurate measurement, but the basic point is that inflation is essentially negligible and will remain that way indefinitely as far as I can see. Corporate profits are going to balloon because of the Tax Act. You've certainly read enough about that. There will be some corporations that bring their money back here and invest it here, and that would be very nice. And the other sub-note is that the rising stock market could bail out the public pension funds. Most of them are in dismal condition, including here in San Diego. Military spending will get a big boost. The bill that was just passed is just a marvelous thing for San Diego. Doesn't get any much better. And there are really 4 or 5 states that really hog the military spending, and we're the biggest of them. We're usually actually tied with Virginia. Let me talk about real estate here in the U.S. We're going to put out 1.2, 1.3 million housing units, which will be the best we've had in 11 years. So this is national, doing fine. Resales will be over 5 million, which is really good. The highest we've ever had was 7 million, but that was in crazy days. Foreclosures have basically gone away. Non-residential construction, which most people don't focus on, is an amazing driving force in our economy. And it's really going to have a sensational year in 2018. With the spending on infrastructure and the military, it's going to be very, very good. Everybody complains about home prices. No. Here we go. The story is that home prices are highest in the metropolitan areas that have the highest wages for white-collar jobs. So when you look,
It's on the small screens on the side. It's up here on this side.
okay. So when you look at these places with very high home prices, these are the metropolitan areas that are that have all the high-tech jobs, that have folks who can afford to live there. If you want to move to Detroit,
Oh, God.
there's still some life. Median home price in Detroit last week was $45,000. So if you want to live cheap, you can move to Detroit. Now, there are no jobs,
Right.
and there's no economy.
jobs.
And the same, of course, is with rents. Rents are highest where incomes are highest for white-collar workers. If you want to move to Peoria, you can live really cheap, but what do? You know, you can't, when you think of where Amazon wants to put their new facility, it has to be in a place, they don't really care much that rents are high because they pay a lot. But they want to be in an area that can attract the highly educated people. So they go to one of these places, and where Amazon might, my bet's on Denver, but it could be Dallas or Atlanta. We'll see. Now, short story. Give you your PhD in economics. Every time you add one basic job, you automatically gain 2 more jobs. And a basic job is a job whose source of revenue comes from outside the immediate area. So here in San Diego County, we are blessed. Most metropolitan areas have maybe 2 or 3 economic drivers. We have 8. And of course, you start with the military, which is still about a quarter of our entire economy. But when you look at the other things like tourism and manufacturing and high tech and biotech and import-export, we have 8 economic drivers, and you know, they're all doing well. So that's why our economy locally is really doing quite well. Now, let's talk about San Diego. We're going to add about 30,000 people, half of them from immigration. From the word immigration, you immediately think of out of the country. Our immigration, about half of it is from folks who come here from within the United States, and then we also have, obviously, immigration from outside. We're going to gain another 20,000 jobs or more, maybe 22,000. Unemployment rate, as I mentioned, will be low. We're going to build about 10,000 housing units this year, and in 2018, it'll be the highest number since the wild years of 2004, 2005. And the good news is that we will be building for sale housing that is reasonably priced. It's virtually all going to be an Otay ranch. And right now, there are 35 for sale projects in Otay Ranch, ranging anywhere, most of them are between 350 and 500,000, which is our sweet spot. And they are selling like crazy. And it's the first time that we've actually had shovel-ready dirt since we ran out of shovel-ready dirt in 2006. So we're having an enormous amount of construction in South Bay, and then a fair amount up on the 78. So we're producing for sale housing that people can afford. And that's a marvelous thing to happen. Apartment construction is going to slow down some. Non-residential construction, highest ever in 2018. We will have an amazing year, a combination of military and infrastructure spending. McKinsey and Company did a forecast on the future jobs in America. And they broke jobs into 2 kinds, algorithmic and heuristic. Algorithmic jobs are jobs where you do the same thing every single day. Your cashiers, people who just wrote memory jobs. Heuristic are jobs where you have to use your brain. And they're basically saying that the future, as you might suspect, is very heavily on heuristic jobs. And that, of course, augurs well for those states that have the industries that require brain power. So obviously the entire West Coast, Texas to a large degree, most of the other gold states, and some of the metropolitan areas in the black states, obviously Chicago, New York, Boston, Philly, Washington. They're going to do well because they not only have great jobs, they are very attractive to the educated market, particularly the millennials. Because millennials drive our economy, because those are 18 to 34 years old. They're the ones that do all the spending. That's when they have their household formations. That's when they're buying their houses, when they're going to Home Depot every weekend, where they're buying nice cars. 10 years ago, the average price of a car was $22,000. Now it's $37,000 because all those kids who had Corollas are now getting married, having kids, and are buying SUVs. And you see this enormous change in the composition of our automobile sales going on now.
Alan, have you been hanging around our family? I believe you got our family members here going, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I see most of these are millennials. So
Yeah.
Here we go. That's Barbie. She's 50 years old now. She's no longer a millennial. Now, when you look at the growth of the millennial population here in the United States, we have about a 10-year run of this wave of millennials. Now, they started later because in about 25 years ago, the millennials were getting married at age 22. Now they're getting married at age 28. So you had this hiatus where the wave should have started a few years ago. It's now starting now. And you will see this year the millennials really taking off in their spending patterns, and it has a long run ahead of it. So I feel very good, very confident. San Diego has the highest percentage of millennials in the population of any place in the United States. So get set for some really good spending. It means great things for the home building industry, it means great things for Nordstrom's and Beamers and the entire SUV industry. Let me show you a statistic that is somewhat remarkable. In 1975, 57% of millennials were married. Now it's 27%. Half. Because of the shift where they're getting married later. 31% nationally of millennials still live with their parents. In California, 40% of millennials still live with their parents, which is absolutely amazing. And here in San Diego, we have an amazing number of Henrys, high earnings, not rich yet, because of the jobs we're creating here in our high-tech industries. So things are looking very, very good for San Diego. And as a closing, this is a sort of a national thing that's somewhat remarkable. In the next quarter century, our kids are going to inherit $40 trillion. And it's already happening. And if you go on, for instance, the American Council of Life Insurance, you begin to see the payouts that are happening right now as people pass away. And, you know, I'm not going to be around forever, and my kids know it. We usually hire a food taster when we have over for dinner. They know it's coming, and that is going to fuel an enormous part of our economy over the next quarter century. So things are very, very positive. 2018 is going to be a very, very good year. And in your businesses, you'll be around to enjoy it. Thank you.
Well, you can see, and I gotta tell you, this is a great read. It is not academic. I mean, the research is there. Clearly, the guy's paid his dues, but it's a very good read. So I do have some copies over here to see us later on.